Welcome to our video about 5 scary stories based on real paranormal events. Story 1. The Lost Track of Katoomba. Blue Mountains, New South Wales, Australia. Locals in Katoomba still warn hikers not to take the old fire trail past Devil's Hole after sundown. They don't give reasons, just a look, like they know something you don't. In 2006, a solo bushwalker named Marcus Flynn ignored the warnings. He was chasing old mining tunnels for a photo series, amateur urbex stuff. He'd mapped a route through the scrub down to the abandoned Katoomba Colliery, a place long buried in landslides and ghost stories. He never came back. 3 days after he vanished, SES volunteers found his backpack wedged in a forked tree, 12 feet off the ground. There was no track leading up to it. No scuff marks, no blood, just sitting up there like someone placed it gently. The weirdest part? His camera was inside, and the photos were untouched. The last few images showed misty tunnels, collapsed shafts, and one odd shot taken inside what looked like a rail tunnel. A red glow in the distance, blurred figures, and Marcus's own shadow, cast in 2 directions. Police ruled it an accident. Another hiker lost in the bush, but search and rescue crews weren't so sure. One of them, who refused to be named, said something that still gets repeated in whispers. "We heard breathing, not wind." Not animal calls, deep human breathing, and behind them. Every time they turned, the sound moved, always just out of sight. When the fog rolled in, they pulled out fast. 2 of the crew refused to go back the next day. Over the next 5 years, 4 more people went missing in that same section of bush. None of them were connected. Different ages, backgrounds, reasons for being there. All vanished without trace. Then in 2013, something surfaced. A trail runner was filming his run with a GoPro. He didn't notice anything unusual until he reviewed the footage later. About 11 minutes in, while descending a narrow ridge, you can hear it. Footsteps that don't match his pace. When he stops, they keep going. Frame by frame, you can see something following him. Not a person, not quite. It walks upright, but it doesn't move like a human. No bounce, no weight. Just smooth gliding steps, long limbs. Its head tilted like it's listening. When the runner turns, the thing steps behind a tree and doesn't come out. He never went back. The video was deleted from the original channel, but copies still float around in forums. Some say it's fake. Others say they've heard the same footsteps while hiking near Devil's Hole, just before the fog rolls in. The trail has since been unofficially blocked off by locals. Fallen logs, stacked stones, brush piled high. But that doesn't stop the curious, or the thing that waits. Because every year, bushwalkers report strange lights, echoes in the dark, and that same suffocating feeling, like being watched from the trees. Not chased, not hunted, just observed, waiting. Story 2. In the heart of far North Queensland's ancient rainforest, deep in the rugged Kurrama Range, lies Cardstone, a town frozen in time. Built in the late 1950s to house workers constructing the Kumbalumba hydroelectric dam, Cardstone was once alive with the sound of industry and human ambition. But when the dam was finished, the town was abandoned, left to the mercy of the jungle and the relentless tropical rains. Echoes of the past. Locals who know the region whisper that Cardstone isn't quite empty. Visitors trekking through the dense rainforest have reported strange experiences near the ruins. Footsteps echoing on cracked concrete paths when no one else is there. Shadows flitting between the skeletal remains of buildings, visible only from the corner of the eye. Unexplained lights, small flickering glows that appear and vanish among the trees at night. Many believe these are the lingering spirits of the dam workers, men who toiled through harsh conditions, many far from home, some never making it back. The Lost Worker's Warning. One of the most persistent tales is about a worker named Tom, a young man who disappeared during the final months of construction. According to story, Tom was working late alone near the dam site when a sudden storm rolled in. His mates say he vanished into the jungle, swallowed by the dense foliage and the torrential rain. Search parties scoured the area, but no trace was ever found. Since then, hikers and explorers claim to hear a lone voice calling out near the old workers' huts. A warning, or perhaps a plea, echoing through the trees. Nature's reclaiming Cardstone's decay is a stark reminder of nature's power. Moss and vines choke the rusting metal, roofs have collapsed, and rain carves new rivers through cracked concrete. But the local Girame people, traditional custodians of the land, remind us the forest has always been alive, with spirits known as the Mamu, who watch over sacred places and protect the jungle from harm. The story of Cardstone is not just about abandonment, but about respect for the land, its first peoples, and the people who shaped this place and are now part of its history. Story 3. The Pilliga Princess, Highway of Shadows. The Newell Highway cuts straight through the Pilliga Scrub, 5,000 square kilometers of dense forest and red earth in northern New South Wales, Australia. To truckies, it's a lonely stretch. You can drive for hours without seeing another soul, except for her. They call her the Pilliga Princess. Decades ago, she was a real woman. No one agrees on her name. Some say she was an Aboriginal elder from a nearby community. Others remember her as a quiet, reclusive local who had simply stayed behind when the world moved on. She was often seen pushing a battered shopping trolley along the highway, day or night. It was piled with old clothes, tin cans, and strange odds and ends, things only she seemed to value. Her hair was long and wild, her skin weathered by sun and wind, and she walked barefoot over the boiling bitumen as if it didn't burn her. She became part of the landscape until one night in 1993. A truck driver came over a rise near Coonabarabran and saw her in his headlights. She wasn't walking this time. She stood in the center of the road, arms outstretched, hair whipping in the wind. He swerved too late. When police arrived, she was gone. No body, no footprints in the dust. Just the twisted remains of her trolley lying in the middle of the road. The driver swore he'd hit her. Swore he'd seen her face just before impact, a strange mix of joy and grief. Since then, truckies and travelers have reported the same thing. A woman in a torn dress, hair wild, pushing a trolley along the shoulder of the Newell Highway at night. Sometimes she's walking. Sometimes she's standing in the middle of the lane. And sometimes she appears directly in front of you, too close to brake. When they stop to check, she's gone. Some drivers say they hear the squeak of a trolley wheel trailing behind them long after they've passed the scrub. Others find dusty handprints on their back window, as if someone had leaned in to watch them drive away. Locals warn, if you see her, don't stop, and never follow her into the trees. The Pilliga has a long memory, and the princess doesn't like to be left alone. Story 4. The Timberline Phantom, Tumalin's Lost Lantern. Tumalin is a quiet speck of a town on the Atherton Tablelands in Queensland, Australia, tucked between rolling farmland and dense rainforest. Today it's peaceful, but a century ago it was alive with the sound of saws, steam, and train whistles. Back then, the Tumalin railway station was a vital timber hub. Massive logs cut from the rainforest were loaded onto steam trains and sent south. Workers lived in rough timber huts, the nights filled with the smell of sap and smoke. And the lantern man watched over it all. Old records speak of a railway guard named Jack Hanlon, a tall, wiry man who always carried a brass lantern when checking the night trains. In 1914, during a heavy wet season storm, a log-laden train derailed just past the station. Hanlon was last seen running along the tracks toward the wreck, his lantern swinging wildly in the rain. They never found him. The swollen creeks made search efforts impossible, and when the waters receded, all that remained was his dented lantern, lodged in the mud. The accident was written off as a tragedy, but the story didn't end there. Over the years, railway workers and night travelers began reporting a strange light moving along the old tracks near Tumalin after midnight. It wasn't the steady glow of a torch or vehicle. It swayed, bobbed, and sometimes hovered, just like an old lantern in a man's hand. Some who followed it swore they heard footsteps crunching on gravel ahead of them. Others said the light would lead them deep into the bush before vanishing, leaving them lost among the ghost gums. Local lore claims the Timberline Phantom appears most often in the wet season, during heavy rain, the same conditions that claimed Hanlon's life. And there's a warning whispered by old-timers. If you see the lantern moving toward the station, step off the track and let it pass. But if it's moving away into the bush, don't follow. They say Jack's still searching for the wreck, still trying to finish his final shift. And if you join him, you might never find your way back to town. Story 5. The Stockton Beach Mystery. Stockton Beach in Newcastle, New South Wales, is known for its endless white sand and the wild surf that pounds against the shore. But for locals, there's another memory tied to this place, one they don't speak about lightly. It was a warm Friday night in November 1989. A small group of teenagers gathered in the dunes for a birthday celebration. Music drifted through the air. The glow of a fire danced in the distance, and the ocean's roar drowned out the sound of the nearby town. Among them was a 14-year-old girl we'll call Emily. She wasn't from Stockton, but she'd been invited by friends. By all accounts, she was bright, confident, and looking forward to a night of fun. But as the hours passed, the mood began to shift. Arguments flared. People disappeared into the darkness of the dunes. Some guests left early, uneasy about the tension in the air. Emily was last seen walking away from the group, her figure swallowed by the black silhouette of the sand hills. She never came back. The next morning, a walker made a grim discovery. Emily's body was found in a lonely stretch of dunes, far from where the party had been. Police sealed off the area, but rumors had already started to spread. Stories of what happened varied wildly. Some whispered about strangers lurking near the beach, others about people from the party who weren't telling the whole truth. An arrest was eventually made. One young man went to prison for her death, but even after the trial, there were questions that never seemed to have clear answers. Witnesses changed their statements. Some claimed they were pressured to stay quiet. Official inquiries years later revealed failures in how the case was handled. For Stockton, the tragedy became a shadow over the town. Parents warned their children about wandering the dunes alone. Teenagers swapped theories about the real story and what might have been covered up. And through it all, the beach remained, beautiful, dangerous, and silent about what it had seen. Today, if you walk that stretch of sand at night, you can hear the waves crashing and the wind sweeping over the dunes. Locals say sometimes it feels as if you're being watched. And when the moon is high, you might see a lone figure in the distance, standing at the edge of the surf, staring back. Thank you for watching.